already 8:41, dude. A little later than I like to start this, but let me tell you something. Your boy's already sweating. We just went out. I went outside. Moved all the stuff from the pool, or for the pool from our attic. And our attic, that's not the right password. Our attic is above our garage. It's not, there's no stairwell. Nothing, no stairwell to help us there. You got to get the good old ladder out. So yeah, we just spent the last hour doing that. I'm dirty. I'm sweaty. I'm pasty, which I don't like to be. But yeah. So podcast number 2. I don't even know how I want to start this one. There's actually quite a few things that were announced this week, which, well, in fact, I kind of want to start with something that I guess we could start there. I kind of divided it up based on, like, category, and then there's some that are out of category, but I think we should start off by talking about Disney's Lightyear, which we talked about last week. What a fail. But, I was really thinking about it. And, I don't think it failed because of the LGBTQ or that same-sex kiss. I was really thinking about this one because one of my friends has a really young kid. And I asked her if she saw it. And she said, no, my kid doesn't know who Buzz Lightyear is. I was like, how do you not know who Buzz Lightyear is? But then I remember that Toy Story 1 came out when I was like 2. I think it came out in I think it actually came out in 94. So before I was even born, or maybe the year I was born. I don't remember. It's been a while, but dear God, I'm sweating like crazy. But yeah, so those kids can't really relate to Toy Story. Toy Story 1, 2, and 3, were all while I was growing up. And then Toy Story 4 came out and it was kind of catered to my generation where Andy's going to college and he's got to get rid of the toys. The toys go to a daycare center or whatever. And then what ends up happening is I think Woody ends up staying behind. Sorry for the spoiler for those of you that haven't seen it. But so Buzz Lightyear, or Lightyear as it's called, was a movie that was supposed to be the origin story of Buzz. And that's why I don't think that it really failed because of a specific scene. I think it failed because my generation's the one that can see it as, hey, this is the movie that we grew up with, but we're not going back to movie theaters. I'm not going to go see a Disney movie at the age of 26. So I think that's actually more so why it failed rather than some kissing scene that we all agree should not have been in there. So yeah, I know it did not do well. I saw the article. Oh, let me launch Google Chrome. Dude, let me tell you something. Google Chrome on a Mac, don't ask me why, but Apple, get it together. Just get it together, You haven't figured it out yet. It just bounces for like 15 minutes. And it says crashes. Then I launch it again and it's fine. But, so yeah, that's really why I think that failed. I don't think it has to do anything as much with LGBTQ, whatever. But I will say this, and I think I said this in the last podcast. Disney's obviously huge, but most of their money comes from other countries. So China's a big investor in them. I think they're actually number 1. And unlike us, they're not as accepting of that stuff as we are here in America. So in the Chinese cut or other foreign countries cut, they don't even have that scene in it. So my answer would be, hey, Disney, if you're able to tell the story without the kissing scene, whether it be male, female, 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 male, male, if you can tell the story without it, just take it out. Why even bother having a scene that could jeopardize whether the movie does or doesn't do well? Just take it out. It's that simple, right? So that was interesting, but okay, hold on, wait. I might have the podcast. Okay. Oh yeah, there we go. Disappointed at the box office. I think it made I think it literally did like $5 million, which is terrible. Proceed. Okay, so it did. Oh, okay. It did 51 million, which you're probably like, holy crap, that's a lot of money, and it is. But when it comes to box offices, I think a movie that does really well is like 350 million. So 300 million is like, it did okay. 200 million is like, this is not very good. But to do 50 million in a movie that's all animation and CGI, which costs so much more money than something like Top Gun, where you actually have actors and really you're just paying for actors and to blow shit up, really. So, yeah, I think this was a big hit for Disney. In fact, I know it was a big hit for Disney because they actually canceled their next series, which was Woody's origin backstory. It was called Brokeback Woody. I actually remember they announced this probably, I want to say like 2 years ago. I remember seeing the trailer clip for it. But again, it doesn't, let's say they didn't do any woke thing in that movie. There's nothing that makes me want to go see it. So you're catering to an audience that's kind of aged out of Disney. You're trying to bring them back in, and it's not working. So, hey, let's stop, right, Disney? Let's move on. Let's have new characters. We can milk Toy Story to the end of time, but it's probably not a good idea. But, yeah, the woke thing's kind of annoying in movies because people just want to see a movie. Most people go to do things like, for us, it's video games. For some people, it's movies. For some people, it's other hobbies, but we do these to get away from the wokeness or the politics of things. So when you start taking politics and wokeness and throwing it into movies, you're going to lose money. That's why I don't understand why they do that. And a great example for this is a movie that Disney came out with back in March, which it's one of those things that went under the radar because I guess Disney knew it wasn't going to do very well, or because of not really the wokeness, but because of the topic. It was called Turning Red, and my mom actually made me aware of this. So Turning Red is a Disney movie. You can look it up. It's about girls becoming adults, right? So Turning Red is the female period. So the whole movie is about getting your period. Let's put it that way. And I understand why they would do this. Maybe for the girls who, for some reason, don't have a mother or a female figure in their life to teach them this stuff. So I can see why Disney would do that. And they didn't put a lot of promotion in. So it's kind of a fine line. Now, I get what they're doing. And I do kind of appreciate it because you are teaching young girls something. But I want to know who at Disney felt that it's their job to talk about that stuff or turn it into a movie. So Turning Red, I'm curious. I think it actually did surprisingly well. Like, it's not a blockbuster, but enough people saw it that it says to Disney, hey, we're doing something right here. And again, I'm okay with this. This isn't really woke. This is teaching kids something that's bound to happen. More specifically, girls. I don't know how many boys are watching this one. They're probably fucking with their parents. Dad, what is this? And Dad's like, I just wanted a father-son weekend. What the fuck? So, yeah. I appreciate what Disney's doing in that sense. What I think a lot of people don't appreciate is the stuff like Lightyear or Woody origin story that my generation's not seeing, and I know the new generation's not seeing. So, Disney, wisen up. So, but let's move on to tech news, because there's a couple things this week that were pretty huge. Now that we're out of the movie stuff, that was really the only movie I wanted to talk about. I didn't see any. I know that new Elvis movie did really well. That actor is I don't know his name. I keep forgetting his name, but the actor for that did really. He fits the character. Let's put it that way. And yeah, I hope it does well. I'm a little bit of an Elvis fan as a musician, but so in tech news, they announced that PCIe 7 will be 8 times faster than PCIe. Now, let me teach you about this real fast. So what that's in relation to is basically our GPUs, but we'll tell you why. So I believe mine is Gen 5, but basically what that's saying is it's the amount of bandwidth a GPU can send to the computer's motherboard without latency. And because of that, the speeds that we are getting now in the future with PCI 7 is going to be insane. Like you'll never have bottlenecking, which is true. Now, given I am somewhat talking out of my ass here, I definitely don't know I'm not a computer expert, but I do know that more bandwidth is great. So that's why I kind of pinned this article, because I think most motherboards, and I have a pretty high-end motherboard, I think most are Gen 5. I don't think Gen 6 was that impressive that a lot of companies started using it, but PCIe 7, E stands for Express, I don't know if I said that, 7, blazing speeds, as I said, 512 gigabytes of throughput. That's what we like to see. Now, right here's a little chart I'll put in the video, but as you can see, I mean, it is insane, the speed. So, right, I think I'm on PCI 5, which is 32 gigs, 8 gigs on a 16 lane. So you have, so as you'll see, you have the graph. So most lanes, it's been a long time since I've seen a motherboard with less than 4 lanes. Usually most have 4, 8, or 16. I don't know what has a 1 or 2. Maybe the little PCIe extender. But yeah, I mean, that's a huge jump. 6 did well, but see, it's not even, it's a little more than double the bandwidth. Whereas, well, you know, from 6 to 7, I wonder why 6 didn't do so well, because you know, it's probably a GPU bottleneck. It's probably that GPUs don't really, like 256 is not comparable to 128, whereas 512 to 128 is probably a huge, well, I mean, it's got to be more of a difference. It's kind of the difference, right? Again, talking out of my ass here, but it's probably the difference between seeing 200 frames versus 210 frames in a video game, which honestly you can't tell the difference, and seeing 60 frames to 210. That's a massive difference, and I think that's kind of the situation here. Hopefully that made sense to you guys. But now here's the problem with this, though, now that we're moving to new gen stuff. So real quick, 2 things that have kind of moved forward. The CPU, I've noticed, doesn't really matter as much. You can kind of put any CPU in that's within like the last 10 years, because CPUs are pretty, they don't change that much through a motherboard. But your RAM and your graphics cards, I mean, those get changed. Your RAM, not so much, but I mean, we come out with a new GPU, I think every year now. That's how fast we're moving in the tech world. But the problem with this, and now that we have PCIe 7, is now we also have DDR5 RAM and higher end graphics cards. So this solves the bottlenecking, but what it doesn't solve is the motherboards. So what that's going to end up meaning for us PC gamers or people who just want a new computer, an updated computer, it means that you're going to have to build a whole new computer because you need a new motherboard. So normally, if I got a new GPU, I would just slide it in, call it a day. But if I wanted to move up to, like, I think the new 40 series graphics cards, which we will talk about, I think I could just slide that in there. I don't think it'll be too much of a problem, but there might be some bottlenecking, because even though it's got the 16 lane, or it's PCIe 5 by 16, it's only 128 gigabytes of bandwidth. If the new GPUs have 512, I can't keep up with that. So I'd have to build a whole new computer. And then I also can't put DDR5 into my motherboard, because for those of you that have never put RAM in, I should have a picture of it up, but your RAM stick is like this long, and then there's a little notch that's not quite in the center, right? It's a little off. So when you put it in, you have to put it in the right way. DDR5, the slit is right in the middle, so you can't put it in motherboards like mine and anyone else's. So everyone's going to have to build brand new computers from scratch, at least the motherboard up. So that's kind of annoying, but if it's worth it, it might be worth it, you know? But you're also going to be probably about $5,000 down the hole. But let's talk about the new GPUs, because I know that NVIDIA just announced that the 40 series is probably going to come out at the end of the year. Now, I was looking at the spec list for this. Huge. Absolutely massive. I wish I had a little bit more of a comparison. So just for you guys who don't know what computer I have or what GPU I have a 2080 Ti. So we have this argument a lot. I know Grant and I butt heads about this, but here's the thing. You have something called Cuda Cores, and there's a certain amount. Well, let's not even talk Cuda Cores. Let's just talk about what's called VRAM. So a GPU has something called VRAM, and it usually ranges from, nowadays it's usually like 8, and I think so 8 gigs of VRAM, and then I think the 3090 Ti has 24 gigs of VRAM, which is a beast. But I think it drops pretty desperately. I don't think that's the word. Drastically. Jeez. I think it drops pretty drastically when it gets to the 3080. I think the 3080 is 12 gigs of VRAM. Let me see that one. Let's see. 3080 comparison to, let's do 2080 Ti just because that's the one I have. I'm sure it'll be a chart. Uber benchmark. Let's see. Oh, wow. So which one's which? $2080 Ti. Oh, wow. So this 2080 Ti is actually more expensive than the 3080. I wonder why. But let's see. It's tough to go by here, but essentially they're the same. There's not much of a difference. Maybe 6% better, the 3080. So that's why the 30 series, as expensive as it was, it's really not that worth it, in my opinion. And I know people are going to fight me on that, but I dare you to try and fist fight me. There's not much of a difference between the two. But the one thing that the 30 series does have over the 2080 Ti is what's called Cuda Cores. So this is kind of like, imagine you have your VRAM, right? Let's say you had two identical GPUs that had both 8 gigs of VRAM, but one had more Cuda Cores. So the Cuda Cores, in my analogy, is how much better it's able to fill up that VRAM. So for instance, if you go into Warzone right now and you went to GPU, you'll see that there's a bar of limits. It's like we're using 7 of your 8 gigabytes of VRAM. So I've noticed with the 30 series, let's say I think the 30 series is 12 gigs of VRAM, like a 3060 or something, is 6 gigabytes of, or 12 gigabytes of VRAM. Mine's 11 of VRAM. So even though we have the same settings, mine will use 8 gigs, whereas the 30 series will use 7 gigs, even though it's the same settings. So it is better at that. It's better at using those CUDA cores to the fullest potential. So with the new 40 series, which has a crazy amount of CUDA cores, it's almost double. It makes the 30 series almost obsolete because it's significantly better. It's kind of weird. It's at the point where it's significantly better, and you're at the point where you might as well buy one of those, or if you want an older GPU, just go with a 20 series. Like the 30 series is going to be a dud once these come out. But a big factor is the price. We do not know yet what the price is. We do know that it's going to take more power to boot them to run a GPU, but it's not enough that it's going to make us all change our power supplies. If you have an 80, like an 850 or higher, you're probably good. I know mine's an 850. So, yeah. So, yeah. So, interesting. So, the memory on the 4090 is going to be 24 gigs, which I think is the 3090 Ti. I think that's the same. So, it's probably just going to use CUDA cores a lot better, which is great. But I just don't know how it's going to do against the 30 series. So I can't wait till people start doing benchmarks. That's going to be huge. Huge. So yeah. Now, speaking of price of GPUs, let's talk about kind of our next topic, which was basically Bitcoin. Now, what happened to my notes? There we go. So, as you guys know, Bitcoin, or might have heard, Bitcoin crashed down to $2,000, which is awful. Now, my family owns a think I could talk about this. We own a crypto mining company, so we don't use GPUs. We use ASIC miners, but we just mine it, so the price doesn't really matter too much. But for someone who's buying and selling, I mean, for it to drop like that, I mean, it has got to be a nightmare. And I know a couple people who have done something that you should never do, which is convert all of your money to Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. So, yeah, they're hurting real bad, to say the least. They put all their money into Bitcoin. Luna, which, as you guys might have heard, crashed to $0. Like, I don't even think it exists anymore. I think some billionaire tried bailing it out, and I think it's worth like $4 now. I don't even know. But yeah, don't be those people. Now, what does this mean for you guys? Well, all of us as gamers. So because of this, the price of GPUs have gone down substantially. So probably about a year ago, especially because I just built a computer for my youngest brother. His 3060 was like, I think it was $1,200. And that's low. Right now, I think you can get a 3060 for like $600, which is, I think, MSRP. But let's go to Newegg real fast and see. I think that's MSRP. It's been a long time since I've looked at the MSRP because it's been so long since the price has gone down. But so yeah, like a 3080 right now is only $900, not even. So, dude, I mean, I'm not kidding you. A 3080 a year ago was probably about $2,000. So I think right now, and I'm telling you, right now is probably the best time to build a computer, if you want one. Now the argument is you might want to wait till the 40 series comes out, but again, we don't know what the 40 series is going to cost. We really don't. It could be $1,200 MSRP to start. So that's why I'm saying, yeah, it probably won't be. It'll probably be the regular price of like $600 to $800. But do you want to take the risk? We don't know what's going to happen in 6 months. So, yeah, right now I would say is the time to build a computer, and I might be building a second one. So, your call. I'm not going to force you to do anything, but as you guys know, my opinions are facts. Anyway, now off of the GPU news, this is one that's kind of blew my mind a little bit. So 5G renders Starlink unusable. I forget if I saved this one. I saw it. I don't know if I saved it. Let's see. Okay, no, I didn't save that one. But basically, for those of you that don't know what Starlink is, it's actually a pretty cool concept that Elon came up with. So one of the companies that our family owns works very closely with Elon, so we knew a little bit more about Starlink than most people. But basically, Starlink was this idea that Elon was going to come out with this phone. I forget what it's called. I don't know if he had a name for it at the time, but basically, Tesla wanted to launch a bunch of satellites into the air, and into orbit, and that was going to give global coverage for cell phones. And the idea was you would just pay maybe a flat fee every month, no matter what carrier you were on, whether it be T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T. You'd have coverage anywhere in the world. It was an awesome idea, but then 5G, more stuff on 5G came out. And 5G is one of those things where it's never big news, but it's a lot of news over years. So no one's really paying attention to it, but I think coming up soon, you're going to hear a lot more about 5G. My father used to work a lot with 5G, so I kind of know quite a bit about it. But basically, right, if you look at your cell phone, you usually have like a bar of cellular, and sometimes it'll say 4G if you have really good coverage. 5G is apparently so insane that we don't need Starlink anymore. It's able to have enough bandwidth that it can reach from anywhere. It doesn't matter. So the way these cell phone towers work is, right, you have a tower, you have a bunch of people in that tower. The more people you have, less bandwidth to the people, and then it starts bogging down. But 5G is such a huge advancement that you can... it won't even factor in. You can have every person in the world on, well, that's an exaggeration, but you can have every person in maybe a state be covered on one tower. Like, that's how nuts it is. So that's a pretty big deal. Now, the problem is Elon put billions of dollars into this, and it's pretty much useless now. I think the only reason you would use it is if you have their cell phone, which I don't think they announced yet. I know it's known as the Tesla phone, but I don't know if it has a name. Like, I don't know if they're calling it the Tesla phone. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm glad 5G is coming. So ideally, you won't have any streaming delays if you're watching something on your phone on the subway. You can download things at crazy speeds. So I think 5G is really going to change how everything's done. It's a really big deal. So we use 5G in some of the stuff that we work on, and it helps us so much. So, but we have what's called like test dummies. So it is 5G, but it's more so like beta tested 5G, and there's only a certain number of people on it. So, yeah, that'll be cool. I think in the next 5 years, I think most phones will have 5G. So yeah, I don't know what else to say to that. Elon, sorry, sorry, your Starlink's going to be a little obsolete. So that's pretty much it in the tech news. I know there's a lot of little stuff that we could have talked about, but that's why you guys should post in the Discord. Solid plug for anything that you guys want to talk about. But let's get into video games. Something I actually do know about a lot more. Warzone update season 4. From what I'm hearing, it's not very good. They added a new map. So Rebirth's on a rotation now, which I don't mind. Like, again, you can get sick of Rebirth, but I hear the new map's not very good. It's I haven't played it yet, but I believe it's not that it's smaller, but the way it's shaped is one UAV. You can see like everyone on the map, and you could just wipe people. So everyone just guns for UAVs. Not to mention that gun balancing is terrible. They tried balancing it out, but now the NZXT is just nuts, apparently. So there's no point in using anything else. They said that they're going to do some balancing. Blizzard said they're going to do some balancing, but it's just not. Listen, we know how Blizzard does with balancing. It's not very good. Can we all agree on that? Good. I'm glad. The other thing that Call of Duty has done is they brought back Shinonuma to Vanguard. Now, this is their way of saving zombies. Hey, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. There's no saving Vanguard zombies. Vanguard is a game where you upgrade your weapons for Warzone. There's no other point to playing it. It's kind of a shame because I thought that Vanguard had a lot of potential when it first came out. We were blown away by the graphics. I know Matt and I talked about it. I know Dave and I talked about it. I mean, gameplay-wise, it was great. But it fizzled out very quickly because, and I think you're going to see this a lot with any game that's going to be on Warzone. Same with Cold War. It fizzles out because people max out all the guns and they don't go back. They have no reason to play. And I think I knew that was going to happen when they announced that Warzone was going to be cross games. And I think it's very, very smart that with the new Modern Warfare, they're just starting from scratch because now that makes people want to level up the new guns. Now, here's the next problem though. And this is one, I'm very curious to see what happens with this. So we have this new Warzone coming out with a new game. You pay for it. You have Warzone, blah, 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 blah. What happens to Modern Warfare 2019, Cold War, and Vanguard? And Warzone, the one that we have today. Do those just become obsolete? Like, what do we do? I'm never going to play those games again if those guns aren't in the new Warzone. So why would I bother ever launching those again? And Call of Duty prides itself on being able to go back to games from 2012 and still playing them. They still have servers up for Modern Warfare 3. So I was thinking that the other day. I was like, what's going to happen to these games? That's 3 games you're throwing down the hole, just in the trash chute, because no one's really going to play it. You have like a handful of people that might enjoy Cold War and play it. Like, oh, these are the best maps I've ever played. But I don't know. I just don't see a future for those games. Some people really liked Modern Warfare 2019, but I think if Modern Warfare 2 is on the same engine with a lot of the remastered maps or newer maps for, like, I don't see why, like, Grant's a great example. Grant plays Modern Warfare 2019 religiously. Like, he doesn't play Cold War, he doesn't play Vanguard. But I know he's going to like Modern Warfare 2 because it's Modern Warfare. So I think, my guess is he's just going to jump ship. He's probably just going to move to Modern Warfare 2. And that's what I would do. So what's going to happen to these 3 games? You're just going to toss them. You're going to end you're going to see those servers go down. Probably not anytime soon, but at some point, I bet you, ready? Big bold statement, write it down, mark it. I bet you that those servers are going to be shut down before Modern Warfare from 2012 or whatever, 2008. I guarantee you those get shut down before that game. I'm going to call that. Mark that. Dude, I'm just too smart, dude. I'm predicting the future at this point. Holy. Sometimes I surprise even myself. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens. But Vanguard, as I said, Shinonuma, doesn't make me want to play it. Sorry. I'm not doing that. It's not fun. Bring back new maps. Or bring out new maps. Don't give me a redo of a map that's already been done that I played years ago with my friends for hours and hours that I'm not going to play again. So yeah. Next thing that they announced, and probably one of the things that excited me the most, was Skate 4. So EA just announced that Skate 4 is going to be revealed in July. I am a huge fan of the Skate games. Played Skate 3 to the point where my thumbs were bleeding on the thumbsticks. Yeah, that happened. I played the crap out of it. I'm so excited for Skate 4. I know Grant and I are going to play the absolute piss out of that, so be ready. I'm going to be playing a lot. I've waited. When did Skate 3 come out? Let's see. When did Skate 3? Skate 3. I wonder when that came out. 2010. It's been, wow. Man, that game still holds up for being 12 years old. Wow. Yeah. Geez, that's actually insane. I did not realize it was that old. But just to go out of order, I forgot that I put this in a different spot, but back to Call of Duty real fast. Blizzard is hurting real bad. And we kind of talked about this last week. I realize it's kind of awkward, but I talked about Skate 4. I was just so excited for Skate 4 that I had to throw it in there, kind of like a fucking kid with Tourette's. But back to Blizzard. We'll take it from a high, bring it down to a low. So, yeah, Blizzard is hurting right now. So, for those of you that don't know, we talked about it last week, but Blizzard's Diablo Immortal was supposed to be a huge success, and it's just not. It's pay to win. So they're hurting there. Between all the sexual allegations that they've had, sexual assault allegations in the workplace, a lot of other issues, to say the least. Yeah, they're hurting real bad, and I think a lot of companies are going to jump ship, and I think Call of Duty's already kind of done that. I think Activision's kind of moved away from Blizzard, and Activision has its fair share of issues, but the new Modern Warfare is going to be on Steam, so it kind of goes to show you that Blizzard's hurting. Blizzard's really hurting. Not to mention, Overwatch 2 was a bust. Still is a bust. I don't care if someone showed me numbers that said, hey, we're averaging 100,000 players a week. It's a bust. If you reskin a game, call it number 2, and make people pay for it, even though it's free now, so clearly it's not doing well, I'm still not going to believe it. I'm still going to call bullshit. But yeah, they're hurting real bad. So in May, Activision's board of directors urged shareholders to vote against a proposed report on the company's efforts to combat abuse, harassment, and discrimination in the workplace. So they voted against it because I guess it just takes a lot of time and money to really go through all that, and they're hurting. They have to really get a game going or do some project because they financially are struggling. And I don't think they're going to have layoffs or anything. Like, when you say financially struggling, when the company's billions and billions and billions of dollars are in their net worth, I said that's so weird. They have a multi-billion-dollar net worth. It's tough to say that they're really financially hurting. It's more so you can have, ready, here's the analogy. I'm about to blow your mind with this analogy. You can have the nicest ship in the world, right? But if you have a crew with a terrible moral support and a lot of issues, the boat's not going to sail, right? And I think that's where Blizzard's kind of at right now. I don't think it's going to... Now, obviously, with these huge game companies like Ubisoft, Activision, whatever, there's a lot of different branches. So, like, you'll have a Canadian group working on Siege. You'll have another group working on Vanguard in Australia, so and so. But as a whole, the company's not doing too well. And when you have that many issues, it's very hard to get projects out. And when projects aren't going out, revenue starts going down. And I don't think it'll really affect the bottom dollar of certain CEOs at those companies, but it's enough that it's a wake-up call. And a wake-up call that something has to be done, and I hope something is done. I think Diablo 4 is going to do phenomenally well, so that will help them. But this isn't really about the money. It's about the cases that they've been having of assault, abuse in the workplace. Like, that stuff has to be fixed because it's just tainting the image of your company to the point where I think you're going to start seeing walkouts, if they haven't already, or just crap games coming out. And companies that won't want to work with you. So, as I said, Modern Warfare has already moved to Steam. They're not putting it on Blizzard. And I think that there's a huge reason for that. But, yeah. So, Blizzard, we wish you luck. Figure it out. But another big thing to announce. So, we went from high to low. Back to high. From Software, so the people that make Elden Ring just announced that they're working on something, that their next game is coming out. Now, super excited for that. I love From Software games. I love fucking Dark Souls. I love Elden Ring. I love Bloodborne. Awesome. Now, here's the problem. Where's the Elden Ring DLC that we've been waiting on for since the summer, right? Dude, I don't understand how... I get it. I understand why people like Elden Ring, but the replay value of that game, it's just too big. It's not like a Dark Souls where you kind of have a path memorized. I don't know. Like, listen, I'm not doing new game 27. I'm not doing new game 50. I'm not going to beat the game over and over again with a different weapon each time when there's thousands of weapons. I don't have the attention span for that. God bless the streamers and YouTubers that have the attention span to do that. That's not me. You couldn't give me $1 billion. I would never do that. I hate replaying games. Dude, I'm playing Dishonored. I'm trying to get the last achievement. I've had to go through the same DLC 20 times, and I'm so bored of the story. And let me tell you something. Wait, hold on, I'm about to get angry. So I was like, fuck it. Let me do a tutorial on how to do this. Now, the achievement is you have to beat the last DLC. You have to beat the last DLC on low chaos, which means like you can't really kill that many people, and you have to finish with 10,000 coins. Now, they don't give you 10,000 coins, right? You can only get up to, I think it's like 9,000. So I thought that there was a trick to this. I was like, what's the trick? I have to know. So I finally look it up, and you know what this motherfucker says at the beginning? He goes, oh, your money carries over to the next game. Oh, I didn't know that. So I've been restarting to because if you don't get it by the last boss, you might as well restart, or so I thought. So, dude, I've been playing through this. So I would have 100,000 coins by now, and I could have beaten it. But I've been starting over like a fucking moron. So, yeah, I've been struggling with this achievement forever. It's been the last achievement I've had to get. It took me I've been trying all week whenever I had the time. So, yeah, I was pretty upset. But anyway, back to From Software. I'm glad they're starting a new game, but about to release a new game, which obviously I'm going to play because I love their games. But I would have liked to see an Elden Ring DLC, because I want a DLC. I'm waiting for a DLC. I think that Elden Ring mechanically is the best From Software game we've had so far. I like the open world concept. I would like it a little narrower, more like a like, I wish it was... Here's the idea, right? I want you to picture a map of Elden Ring. I want the DLC to be about the size of, like, the winter area. Not bigger. I think that's a good size. Maybe a little bigger than Volcano Manor, but, like, a little smaller than that middle part. I forget what it's called. Limgrave or whatever. So, again, I would have liked it. I know that they said that they're getting more staff, so I think they will start working on DLC. But, again, is it too late? That's my question to you guys. Is it too late to go back to Elden Ring? For me, I think it is. If they do a DLC, maybe I'll get it. It's more of a maybe. But if you're going to have a new game come out, I'm just going to play that new game. If they're not even going to do DLC, then it's like, oh, I wish you could have told me that, so that I could have prepared. I could have mentally prepared for the sadness. So yeah, I was a little upset about that. I would have really liked DLC. But if the new game's really good, I'm fine with it. I am also waiting for Life of P. Life of P looks really good, but I think it's not going to be as mechanically good as Elden Ring since it's not a From Software game. It's a indie game, and mechanically it doesn't look that great, but I like the concept. So, all right. That's all the gaming stuff so far. I don't think there was anything else that really got announced, but let's move into other news. So one of the big ones, and this is one I was kind of waiting on. So they just banned, so this is world news more so. They banned the Jewel Pods. And let me tell you something. Thank God they banned these things. Now, listen, I know you smokers out there. You're like, oh no, my fucking cotton candy Jewel Pods. Dude, I know I've seen 8-year-olds smoking those things. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Those Jewel Pods are fucking awful for you. I don't know how they haven't banned those sooner. I know some people would say, oh, well, smoking's allowed. Yeah, but here's the difference. I truly felt that those Jewel Pods were kind of catered to kids, right? You got bubblegum flavor, cotton candy flavor. If you're a grown adult and you're getting anything cotton candy, reassess. Unless it's actual cotton candy, but you know, my brother drinks, sometimes, I don't know if he does this anymore, but when we go to, ice cream places, sometimes I get like cotton candy flavored ice cream, and I'm like, ugh, what the fuck? But yeah, so they finally banned these things, and it's honestly about time. I was kind of happy to hear that. Yeah, that was really it. I was happy to hear that because, dude, I'm not even kidding. I've seen children smoke those things. I remember kids would be like, "Can you go get me Jewel Pods?" I'm like, "What the fuck? You're 9. I'm not doing that." How much money are you giving me? Oh, okay. Well, that's not enough, Timmy. Yeah, we'll talk about the last one because that's a deep one. But let's talk about Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. Now, I know not all of you are interested in this because this is more so MMA, boxing sort of thing. But this is very cool to me. So I'm trying to think of where to start with this. So this story's kind of changed this week. Like as of yesterday, I think this changed. But Jake Paul was supposed to box Tommy Fury, which is Tyson Fury's younger half-brother or step-brother. I think it's a half-brother. Yeah, half-brother, because it's the same dad, different mom. I think. Close enough. It's one of those. But he was supposed to fight that, and they were having problems. They couldn't get the fight to start. Now, Jake did this whole thing about how Tommy Fury's being kind of a bitch about it. God, I keep getting notifications. Cell phone, you're going over here. I apologize. Basically, Jake Paul did everything to cater to Tommy Fury so that they can have this fight because they're going to make so much money it doesn't even matter. But Tommy Fury was doing this weird thing where essentially he was backing out of the fight, but he didn't want to directly say it. So Jake called him out. As of today or yesterday, the fight is going to happen. But what's interesting to me is what's going to happen with a man named Nate Diaz. Now, I know you guys aren't into MMA, but let me explain to you why this is kind of a big deal in the MMA community. So the Diaz brothers, everyone knows Conor McGregor, but before Conor McGregor, you had the Diaz brothers. And the Diaz brothers were kind of those shit talkers who were good fighters. I wouldn't say that they were at Conor's level, even though Nate did beat Conor once. But that's besides the point. Generally speaking, they have like average fighting careers. But let me explain to you how a UFC contract works. So let's say you join the UFC. You have 10 fights on your contract. Let's say you fight 8 fights and you want to get out. The UFC says, sure, more than happy. You can go do whatever you want. You can go model, you can start a YouTube channel, whatever. You did your 8 fights, you can leave whenever you want. You just won't get paid for the last 2. But Nate wants to box Jake Paul because you would get more money in that fight, or he would get more money in that fight than he ever got in the UFC. But he can't do that because technically he still has to finish out those 2 fights on his UFC contract. So Dana White, the CEO of the UFC, said, well, you can't do that. You have to finish your last 2 fights. Now, one of those fights is a trilogy fight between him and Conor McGregor, who you guys all, I'm sure, know or have at least heard of. But he's got 2 fights left, and the UFC's not giving him a fight. So Nate's like, yo, if you're not going to give me Conor, release me so that I can go fight Jake and move on. Because he's kind of tied. He wants to fight. Doesn't want to do anything else. So please let me fight Jake Paul. So Dana officially announced, you know what? It's a good fight for him. I don't know if he's officially released him yet. But the reason that this is a big deal as of 2 days ago, before they announced that the new fight was going to happen, that the Tommy Fury fight was going to happen, Dana... Wait, what was I saying? Sorry, someone made a noise upstairs and it threw me off. Basically, I was saying that if Tommy Fury backed out of the fight, I think everyone would have loved to see Jake fight Nate. And I have a lot of respect for Jake Paul. Jake Paul's actually done a lot for the UFC community, the boxing community. You know, people give a lot of shit to the Paul brothers, but I actually have a great deal of respect for those guys. We talk about it all the time, but... I think there a lot of that stuff that you see on YouTube is kind of a facade. It's not real. And from what I hear from reliable sources, I know some people that know the Paul brothers. I also know some podcasters that know the Paul brothers. I listen to podcasters, but I do have friends that know them. And from what I hear, they're great people. So I will never really talk bad about them, especially now that I know a little bit more about them. But Jake especially has done a lot for the fighting community. So I would really like to see him and Nate fight. I think it's going to be bigger than this Tommy Fury fight, but it's a good one to have under his belt. I am one of those people that does consider Jake Paul a legitimate boxer. And I think fighting Tommy seals the deal. I think fighting Nate will seal the deal. And then I don't think anyone else can say anything bad about the Paul brothers, especially Jake. Logan's really figured things out, but I think Jake's still that one that everyone's like, oh, he's too immature. And maybe, again, if I had that kind of fame and wealth at that age, I can't claim that I'd be better. You know, I don't know. But, yeah, I'm really excited for that. So I hope the UFC either releases... Oh, that's what I wanted to say. So that fight happens. So Tommy Fury and Jake Paul are going to fight. I hope that the UFC either gives Nate Conor and just finish out the contract, which is going to be a huge fight. That trilogy fight's going to be huge. Conor, for those of you that don't know, who are like, oh, well, whatever happened to Conor? He actually shattered his leg, so he hasn't been fighting. So I think they've been waiting for him to heal so that he can fight Nate. Now, the problem is Conor is really heavy right now. Conor's like 190 of muscle, from what I hear. He's probably going to go into boxing after this. I wouldn't be surprised. I know there's a lot of speculation to that, but I would really love to see that trilogy fight get done and then Nate fight Jake, which will happen. It's just a matter of when it happens. So, yeah. Last but not least, the last thing in the news, this is probably the darkest thing we're going to talk about for quite a while. And I know it's not the happiest note to end it on. I mean, we still have one question that Zia asked in Discord that is actually a pretty interesting topic. So I know this podcast is a weird order, if you will. But I do want to talk about the Uvalde school shooting, which kind of a big deal. Well, it's definitely a big deal for those of you that, I mean, you probably live under a rock if you haven't heard about it, but for those of you who are too young to hear about it, basically about a month ago, there was this horrible shooting in Uvalde, Texas, right? Uvalde, Texas? Or is it Arizona? Hold on. Uvalde. Yeah, it is Texas. Okay. Ooh. Wasn't sure. For some reason, my brain was saying Arizona, but anyway. Now, the reason I bring this up is not because I want to make, how do I want to put this? The reason I bring it up is because it's kind of become somewhat of a almost conspiracy, and I'm not a big conspiracy guy. I entertain them and listen to them, but I'm not a big believer. But, dude, I want everyone's opinion on this one, because the more that's happened, the more news that has come out over the last 2 weeks of this shooting, it blows my mind every time. I'm like, there's more to this. So let me quickly give the rundown for those of you that don't know what happened. There was this terrible school shooting down in Texas. This kid had somehow, now remember, this is an 18-year-old, I believe. He was either 16 or 18. Really doesn't matter. I'm going to say 18 because that way he can legally own the gun, and that's why we had these huge gun safety bills that you might have heard of. But This kid was somehow able to get not one, but two ARs, which are, I believe, $8,000 each. Now, I don't know about you guys. At 18, I did not have $16K to spend. On top of a $60,000 brand new truck. Hey, dude, the only other person to ever do that at 18 was LeBron James with that Hummer that for some reason he miraculously had, even though his mother wasn't working. Won't talk about it, won't bring it up. It happened a long time ago, but listen, where's this kid getting this stuff? That's question number one. Now, anyway, so what this kid ends up doing is he is in a police chase for 15 minutes. Well, let me start that over. Kills his grandmother, who he's living with. Gets in a police chase for 15 minutes. Gets to a school. And he's shooting up a school for an hour. An hour as the police stand outside. Now, one of my close friends, well, I shouldn't say close friends, but one of my friends at the gym, he's a state trooper. He's jacked. He's on all the steroids, right? Which I believe that if you are a police officer, take all the steroids you want. I don't care. But I've talked to him, and I think he says that his unanimous decision before all the information has been coming out was that it was just terrible, terrible communication amongst cops. But what was weird was that they were keeping parents out. So the cops said, hey, you're not allowed to go in. We're waiting from higher ups. So please don't go in. And unfortunately, 19 kids were shot and killed from the ages of like 6 to 12 or something like that. It's horrible, don't get me wrong. But it's just very weird because now we're seeing officers give different stories. So we weren't in. Turns out they were in. Well, there was no janitor and we were waiting for a key. Nope, you were in there at the 18-minute mark. So you let this kid keep shooting for 30 minutes. Right? Well, we were waiting for riot shields. Well, in the video, you have these riot shields. Huh. Okay, what else? And then they said, well, our commanding officer told us to not go in. Well, the commanding officer said that's not true. Or I think he said that I didn't know it was my responsibility. What? What? You're the commanding officer. That's like the head chef going, oh, was I supposed to cook today? So, was it piss poor communication? But you were in there. Like, it's one of those things that I have so many questions about. And I think in the next couple of weeks, maybe the next couple of months, we're going to hear a lot more about this. But the reason I bring this up is because it's so interesting. We've never had a shooting like this in the sense of the cops were acting fishy. The situation of where this kid's getting this stuff is fishy. The only conspiracy I've really heard, my friend actually brought this up at the gym, not the police officer, someone else, and it actually makes a lot of sense. So I didn't realize how close Uvalde is to the Mexican border. It's not that far. And my theory and his theory, it's my theory now because I completely understand it or believe it. I think that kid might have been smuggling drugs for the cartel, and that's where he got the money. I would not be surprised. That's the kid thing. I don't know. The police thing sketches me out more than the kid, because the kid, maybe there's some way he got all that money and was able to do that, get a car somehow at the age of 18 without doing any paperwork. All of his guns were legal. Still don't know how he got the truck. That one baffles me because you got to sign paperwork. You got a proof of insurance, proof of all that stuff. And somehow he was able to get... Either way, that's to me is not the bigger issue. I think the cop situation is still blowing my mind. Like, maybe it was miscommunication, but I mean, you'd have to royally fuck that up. Royally fuck that up. And what sucks is instead of owning up to their mistake, if it was a miscommunication, they're doubling down. They're saying, hey, if you report on this, you're going to get arrested. If you speak anymore, like now we're having some real problems with the police down there in Uvalde. More specifically, the chief who's actually making those decisions. But I don't know. That's one of those I really want your opinion on. We'll end it on a happier note. So Zia asked this question. As you guys know, you can always post in Discord. Yes, saw this, had to join. It's me. Lamp World. Lamp. Perfect. So one more quick promotion. You can always post topics or questions in the Discord. I have them pinned. The pinned message is, what genre of music do you think will be popular in 2030? And so on. Now, this is actually a really good question because let me tell you what I listen to. Well, let me tell you what I grew up on. So I grew up on 70s and 80s music. My dad, when we would go to school in the mornings, he would be playing Tom Petty, freaking Led Zeppelin, The Who. I mean, you name it. And that's just what I grew up on. Now, once I got to like 8th grade, that's when I started kind of moving more so over to like punk rock or punk pop, which is what I play, as you guys know if you've ever seen a Rocksmith stream. The 30s, I think, because we kind of moved towards hop in the 2000s. Then it became kind of like whatever it is today. I don't know what you would consider. I guess it's still hip-hop, but it's very different. I will say, Machine Gun Kelly's really bringing back the punk rock kind of era. I'll admit it. I think he's killing it. I like pretty much every single song he does. I don't think there's any song that I don't like by him that's not mainstream. Or that is mainstream. In other words, everything I hear on the radio by him is pretty good. Done. That's what I meant to say. So I think right now we kind of have a weird mixture of genres. Like I think you're going to have punk rock's coming back. I more so listen to a lot of bands that you've probably never even heard of. But I think the 30s is probably going to stay hip hop again. But I think you're going to see a lot newer artists, which I mean makes sense. You're not going to keep having freaking what's her name? Jennifer Lopez. Hey, I think she's going to stop, I think she's going to stop. She won't be making music in the 30s, or at least I hope not. It'll be like watching a geriatric swing it back. Like, what are we doing? Too old. But then again, I did just see Ozzy Osbourne came out with a new song on YouTube. That was on the Explore page. I was like, what? Ozzy? Didn't he just have heart surgery? So... yeah, this is a good question. I don't know. Music, as much as I love music, I don't think I could predict that. Music in the 30s. Let me think about that a little more. I remember a couple years ago, we had this weird kind of shift in rap where basically what they would do, obviously mumble rap sucks, but basically halfway through the song, they would do a complete change up. And without changing the song, it was like you had a second song. I don't know what you'd call that. My brother knows the term. My brother's listening to rap. But I don't think it worked. Like you don't hear that very often. So I don't think you're going to have any new genres. I think you're just going to have the same music, but just newer songs. You're going to have more synthetic music. So a lot more, I think less guitar or instruments and more synthesizers and keyboards that make the funny sounds. But yeah, that's a toughie. That's one of those I'd like to have someone with me to talk about with, because I don't listen to the norm of music, really. So, yeah, I think that's all I can really add to that. I really hope that punk rock comes back. I know that those bands I listen to, I can listen to all day, but I know that for others, it won't be the same. So, I don't know. Some people are into EDM. EDM, I don't think will ever be mainstream, but I know that it probably has the biggest category of people that listen to it off the grid. Like I don't even know how to explain it. It's a huge group that you never hear of. Boom, words. So I don't think it's going to change much in the 30s. I think we're going to have quite a bit of the same music for a while, just new songs. But you know what I really like? Actually, I like covers of songs. So there's this one guy on TikTok that's always in my feed named Loveless, who does these amazing covers of songs that takes like these soft songs into punk rock songs. Does a killer job at it, but he doesn't release all of them. The only one that he did was Middle of the Night. He did what's it called, Numb Little Bug or whatever, which phenomenal, but he was like, yo, can't put this one out because we want to do original music. And I was like, no, ruined my day. But there's a couple other songs that I've heard that, oh, where's my phone? Sorry, that took me a little longer to find than I thought. So this kid's name is Chasin. But listen to this. So normally in music, right, you have your, for those of you that don't know music, you have your, it goes intro, which is usually a verse. Sometimes you'll start with the chorus, but you have verse, chorus, sometimes a bridge or a refrain. Then you'll have somewhat of a solo or a breakdown, and then, well, usually it'll be a verse. It's doubled. So it goes verse, chorus, verse, maybe a chorus, then a breakdown, and then verse, then the chorus one more time. That's usually the standard when it comes to music. But usually the chorus is like the big upscale, right? So you have kind of a mellow song to a big chorus, whereas this is actually the opposite, right? Listen to this. Goes down. And I don't know why I like that. So I think you're going to see more so, you're not going to see a change in genre. I think you're going to see a change in how music is laid out. Like, I don't think you're going to have this big chorus anymore. Like, the order at which the music is made is going to change. I think that's what it's going to be. We're going to have the same types of music. Maybe you'll have one guy hitting a jerry can, and that'll be a song. I don't know. But for the most part, I think it's going to stay the same, Zia. So, anyway, we'll end it there. I know that was a little longer than I thought it would be. But, yeah, we got through everything. Keep adding stuff to that Discord. Definitely articles that you want to talk about, or any questions that you want to ask me, or just bring up, or about yourself if you want advice on something. Let me know. Other than that, we'll end it there. Second podcast done. I'm kind of happy with that one. Again, it's a little weird. I'm still getting used to it. It's weird being on camera and talking to no one, whereas in a game, it's different. It's tough to explain. You'd have to be in my shoes to understand. But yeah, either way, we're done with the second podcast. I'm having fun with this. It's work. It's a little more work, but yeah, perfect. So you guys have a good one, and I'll see you at stream. So peace.